Today I'm going to be talking about persuading my audience on why the death penalty should not be a viable punishment to use for any crime. Without a totally unfailing justice system, the inconceivable risk of putting someone innocent to death via capital punishment cannot be ruled out. Due to this, the death penalty must be abolished. Today we're going to be discussing botched executions, we're going to be discussing the Eighth Amendment in the Constitution, and we're also going to be discussing the cost of the death penalty versus life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. First, we're going to be talking about the botched execution of Clayton Lockett. This happened in the state of Oklahoma in the year 2000. He was sentenced to death because of assault and first-degree murder. Due to this, he was put on death row in the year 2000, and then in 2014, at the end of April, came his execution date. On the day of his execution, he did try multiple times to commit suicide, although none of those things worked. So he was brought to the execution chamber where there was a warning to the state of Oklahoma to not use these drugs that haven't been tested yet. They did go ahead and ignore that, and they continued on with the execution anyways. This experimental drug was administered first, and after Clayton Lockett was deemed unconscious, they did go ahead and administer the second two drugs. Unfortunately, he was not unconscious when they thought that he was, and he suffered with great agony and pain, shaking, yelling, screaming for 43 minutes. At the end of those 43 minutes, he did end up having a heart attack, which did end up causing his death. They are not sure if the heart attack was brought on by the 3 different cocktail of medication he was given, or if that happened from the amount of pain that he was in. Next, we're going to be discussing the Eighth Amendment in our Constitution. We can see here that the 3 things that are guaranteed to be protected under the Eighth Amendment is excessive bail, excessive fines, and that cruel and unusual punishment should not be inflicted. We're mainly focusing on this bottom one here, talking about cruel and unusual punishment. I did, as a visual, just want to show you guys an example of a botched execution. This is the only one I believe that's been released. This was released on deathpenalty.org. This is the botched execution of Angel Diane. This was conducted in the state of Florida in 2012. We can see his 2nd and 3rd degree burns. We can also see where the IV was administered, which was right in his inner elbow. Lastly, we're going to be discussing the death penalty cost. For reference, in this speech I am going to be comparing the cost within the state of California. We can see here that the average person that is in jail for the rest of their life without a possibility of parole does only cost the state $47,000 versus the average cost of a death row inmate, which is about $130,000. Also, we can see down here that the average person stays on death row between 15 and 25 years. For reference, Clayton Lockett was on death row for just under 15 years. Depending on how long in that time span they are on death row, they could end up costing the state an additional $3,250,000. So in total, just 1 year, 1 state, the savings without the death penalty could be up to $183 million. In conclusion, we learned today that the Eighth Amendment does protect us against cruel and unusual punishment. Unfortunately, Angel and Clayton both were not protected under that amendment. And we can also see that economically, this is just something that doesn't make much sense for our economy right now. You can call to action by going to the National Coalition to Abolish the Death Penalty website. This is a national database. You just log on, put in your information, and it shows that you stand with the millions of people that stand to abolish the death penalty. Thank you.
folklore.